It starts the way trouble always starts in this house, with a normal morning pretending it's harmless. A routine breakfast. A familiar rhythm of small complaints. The kind of conversation that sounds ordinary until you realize it's actually a warning sign, because Archie Bunker doesn't wake up looking for peace. He wakes up looking for an advantage. And today he thinks he's found one. A neighbor has recommended a man who can inspect the heating for free. And in Archie's mind, that phrase isn't just convenient. It's a victory. It's proof that there's still loopholes in the world for people like him. Proof that he can still outsmart the system, beat the prices, and come out on top in a country that keeps changing its rules without asking his permission. The man arrives with a smooth voice and an even smoother posture. He introduces himself with official-sounding language, the kind that wraps itself in authority. He doesn't just say, "I'm here to check your furnace." He says program, conservation, inspection, words that make a homeowner feel like the government itself is blessing the visit. He's careful about one thing above all. He makes Archie feel important. He nods at Archie's complaints like they're expert analysis. He lets Archie talk and talk, because the more Archie talks, the more Archie commits emotionally to the idea that this man is on his side. And then the man does what the best con artists do. He turns a normal problem into an emergency. He pulls out a device, a meter, and treats it like science. He presses it against the wall, makes the needle jump, and suddenly the room has a verdict. Heat loss, unsafe conditions, a furnace that might be red-tagged, government involvement, a shutoff. The words come fast, and each one narrows the family's options. That's how pressure works when it's professionally applied. You don't give someone time to breathe. You don't let them think. You make the threat feel immediate, so the solution feels necessary. Archie panics, but in a way that looks like anger. Edith worries in the quiet way she always does, trying to keep the mood gentle while sensing the trap forming. Gloria rolls her eyes because she can smell nonsense a mile away. Mike, never shy about being skeptical, wants to argue with the man's science, but Archie is already hooked. Once Archie believes he's in a crisis, he becomes emotionally married to the person offering the rescue. Then the salesman reveals the rescue. Insulation. Aluminum siding. A new system. Big numbers. A lot of money. Archie recoils at the cost until the man delivers the miracle line. The materials can be free because the bunker's house could be used as a model home. This is the moment where every alarm bell should go off. But Archie doesn't hear alarm bells. He hears applause. He hears the fantasy of winning. The idea that his house will be featured, that he'll get something valuable at no cost, that he'll be the one guy who didn't get ripped off. And so he signs. He doesn't read carefully. He doesn't ask the kind of questions that protect you. He signs because his pride is louder than his caution. The contract is presented like a formality, and Archie treats it like one, until the fine print begins to show its teeth. The free materials come with shipping, installation, fees, a bill that doesn't look like robbery until you realize it's robbery with paperwork. Once the contract is signed, the pace speeds up. That's another signature move. Move quickly so the customer can't reverse emotionally. The salesman tells Archie to turn the heat down to save energy while they prepare the work, and suddenly the house becomes physically uncomfortable. The family is cold. Not metaphorically, literally. And that coldness changes everything. It's harder to stay calm when you're shivering. It's harder to argue intelligently when your teeth want to chatter. The house, which is usually a noisy battlefield of opinions, becomes a cramped space of rising panic. Truc arrive. Ladders show up. The free deal becomes a real takeover. Archie starts realizing he may have invited something bigger than he can control. He tries to reverse course with bluster, shouting, threatening, declaring he was pressured. But pressure is exactly how the trap works. When Archie tries to push back, the salesman counters with the contract. The paper becomes the weapon. The moment becomes painfully clear. Archie's loudness can't intimidate Inc. They call the police, expecting someone to come in and declare justice. What they get at first is disappointment. The law doesn't always feel like a hero in situations like this because the trap is designed to look legal. A signed contract can be treated as consent, even when the consent was manipulated. The officer's response is practical, not emotional, and that practicality feels cruel when your family is sitting in a cold living room realizing you might be stuck. Archie's humiliation deepens because he is a man who hates being made small. He hates being fooled even more than he hates losing money. He wants to blame the salesman, the system, the government, the weather, anyone except himself. The family, meanwhile, is caught between anger and survival. Gloria wants to say, "I told you so." Mike wants to lecture. Edith wants peace. But the truth is, no one in that room feels safe until the trap is broken. The turning point doesn't come from Archie suddenly becoming wise. It comes from something far less dramatic. A smart person starts asking boring questions. Permits, licenses, authorization, the kind of paperwork nobody cares about until it becomes a life raft. The salesman's confidence begins to wobble as the questions get specific. Because the scam can survive argument, but it can't survive documentation. A con artist can talk through emotion, can flatter through suspicion, can frighten through fear, but the moment he has to produce real credentials, the performance cracks. And that's the moment the spell breaks. The salesman tries to pivot, tries to retreat, tries to make it all go away. Suddenly, he's reasonable. Suddenly, he's willing to cancel the whole arrangement. It's not because he has become generous. It's because the situation is becoming dangerous for him. The scammer doesn't want court. He wants compliance. When compliance fails, escape becomes the strategy. The household warms up again, physically and emotionally, but the aftertaste remains. Archie has been forced to face something he hates. He is vulnerable. Not because he's weak, but because he's human. He wanted relief from bills, relief from winter fear, relief from feeling powerless. And a professional stranger used that desire like a lever. The story then shifts into a different kind of discomfort. One that doesn't involve contracts but hits just as hard. Gloria and Michael's marriage, and an invisible fear that education can become distance. Gloria watches a dramatic story on television about sacrifice, and the idea gets lodged in her mind like a splinter. Would Michael die for her? It sounds like a silly question if you treat it literally. But Gloria isn't asking for a heroic fantasy. She's asking whether she still matters in the deepest way, whether Michael still sees her as his partner or as a person he's outgrowing. Michael responds the way many people respond when they're uncomfortable, with jokes and dismissal. He acts like the question is irrational. Gloria takes that dismissal personally, because when you feel insecure, you interpret laughter as rejection. Their argument becomes a tug-of-war between emotion and logic, but underneath, it is a simpler fear. Gloria worries she's being left behind. Then Stuart enters the picture, the smart friend, the academic mirror Michael wants to impress. The dinner becomes a performance. Michael and Stuart trade references, correct each other's language, show off knowledge like it's currency. Gloria tries to participate, makes small mistakes, and is quietly pushed out, sent to fetch coffee, to play hostess, to be useful but not central. It's subtle, but it lands hard, because nothing hurts like being treated as decoration in your own home. Gloria's anger finally explodes, and it's not pretty, but it's honest. She refuses to be managed and minimized. She refuses to be treated like she's less. Upstairs, she reveals the truth she's been hiding. She's afraid Michael's education is turning into a wall she can't climb. Michael, in his own way, is stunned because he didn't think he was being cruel. He thought he was being impressive. He thought he was building a better future. He didn't see that while he was chasing respect, he was making his wife feel smaller. Edith, as always, becomes the quiet, emotional engineer of the household. She doesn't argue with big words. She doesn't compete with intelligence. She simply reframes it. She reminds Gloria that being smart isn't one narrow category. She reminds Michael that a marriage can't survive if one person has to shrink for the other to feel tall. And she does it with the kind of practical warmth that makes it hard to dismiss. The night turns again when Stuart, surprisingly, admits he didn't enjoy being turned into a prop for Michael's ego. He liked the human moments more than the intellectual performance. That confession knocks Michael's pride off balance because it reveals the truth. The approval he wanted wasn't even on the table. He was chasing a fantasy while ignoring what was real. Michael and Gloria reconcile awkwardly, imperfectly. There's no magical sentence that fixes insecurity forever. But they name the wound, and that matters. Michael insists she isn't inferior. Gloria admits she is scared. And then a practical promise appears. When Michael finishes school, he will help Gloria go too. Not as charity, not as pity, but as partnership. The marriage doesn't become perfect, but it becomes fairer. What ties both stories together is the same human theme: fear. Archie fears losing control and gets trapped by a free deal. Gloria fears losing connection and gets trapped by silence. In both cases, the escape isn't a heroic punch or a brilliant speech. It's people showing up, a neighbor who warns you, a friend who speaks honestly, a family member who reframes what matters. The bunkers may argue like they're trying to win, but when the room turns cold, literally or emotionally, the thing that saves them is the same old truth. You survive because someone doesn't let you fall alone.